Welcome, everybody. We are doing another episode of Indie Reads Loud. Can you believe it? 5 years already we've been doing this craziness. It's fantastic. So many new books, so many great stories. I am Diana Catherine Penn, your host. And today in the studio with me, I have Maisie Franklin. However, she's not just your average everyday author. She is also simultaneously Melinda Faugo, and she is writing a bunch of different stuff in a bunch of different exciting ways. And we're all going to talk about it in a second. But welcome, Melinda. Thanks for coming
Hi,
back.
thanks for having me back. Great to be here.
I am following your career and I'm so excited with the great things you're doing. But we did mention at the top of the program that you're writing under a pen name. And
I
this is a
am.
conversation that we have a lot in the writing world. And I know that readers are also curious about how authors come about choosing pen names. So, why Maisie Frank first? Why a pen name? Why Maisie Franklin?
Hmm.
And and then we'll get into talking about the book. But let's do this part first.
Sure. So I actually maintain about 6 or 7 different pen names. It's all me writing it. However, I have my this pen name here, Maisie Franklin, who writes all my cozy mysteries. I have Marley Fox, who is my witty quippy rom-com author pen name. I write my adult thriller, action, suspense, psychological horror all under MT Falgoost. I write my children's books under Melinda Taliancich Falgoose. Yeah, I figure I take the long name for the kids' books. We also have Montana Ford, who writes non-traditional Western romances that are more in the flavor of Taylor Sheridan with estrogen than they are in a typical, wide sweeping plains bodice ripper type Western romance.
Perfect.
And then I believe we have Morgan Fontaine, which is my dark romantasy author pen name. Her first book will actually be coming out later this year.
And you'll be back on the program to read from that book as well.
Of course. And then rounding out the corral, if you will, is going to be Marlowe Frank, who is a nod to Chandler and Dashiell Hammett, the old noir type authors. And so that's why we chose that particular name as a little tip of the hat to Philip Marlowe, etc., etc.
So, do you find is it easier for you to compartmentalize with different pen names, or do you find it a bigger challenge?
Personally, I don't know that it necessarily sways me as an individual writer one way or the other. I definitely do find myself code switching, if I'm working, because I will be honest, I do work on more than one genre in a
Mm-hmm.
particular day. So it is a total switch of hats to make sure that I'm aligning tone properly for the genre that I'm writing in. So kind of
And
having those different personas to kind of slip in and out of, I guess it does make it a little bit easier.
so much like a stage actor, you take on a different persona when you're diving into a different story.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And that kind of dovetails into you asked earlier, why pen names?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and most established authors out there, especially the ones who do write in multiple lanes, maybe not quite as many as I'm insanely attempting. But one thing that remains consistently clear in speaking with them about the topic is stay in your lane. And translated, basically, it's that tonal shift. If you are if readers are expecting something from you and they've associated your name with a particular genre, then all of a sudden they say, "Oh, she wrote a new book." And they pick it up, but lo and behold, let's say it's Stephen King-esque horror. you run the risk of alienating your reader. And
Mhm.
so by establishing the different pen names, the readers who read that particular pen name, even though they may know that you also write this, this, and this, they know that if they pick up a book that's got that name on the spine, that this is what they're going to get. And so that is particularly why I chose to establish so many different pen names, is because the verticals, the genres that I'm writing are so widely varied that I wanted no tonal confusion for my readers. I wanted
Yep,
them to know that if they were picking up a cozy mystery, anything by Maisie Franklin, going to be the same flavor. If they
sure.
wanted something deeper with more psychological twist to it, that's MT Falgust,
Yep. I can definitely, and we have had this conversation amongst author circles for decades, right? And I can definitely see the positivity of compartmentalization by genre and author name, making those associations.
Mm-hmm.
I write multiple genres, but I use my own name just because I'm schizophrenic enough. And I just really I have a hard time managing more than my own name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and I want to be me all the time. My biggest problem is having somebody call me something else in public and I don't
Mm.
answer.
Ah.
This is a problem for me because I've never been a good stage actor. I'm a great spotlight operator.
Mm.
So stepping into a new persona is not a thing that's easy for me. And that's why I write all my genres under my own pen name. But I can definitely see the benefit of the way
Mm.
that you're doing it.
Yes.
And it is something that many mainstream traditionally published authors do.
Mm.
So it's not an unusual thing. It just doesn't sit in my head.
Yeah. It's like the age-old argument, plotsing versus pantsing.
Uh-huh. We've
You
had
know?
that conversation too.
All right,
Yeah.
so uh just like I tell anyone when I'm giving a talk on writing craft, no matter
Hmm.
where that may be, it's always be true to yourself,
Sure.
be true to the story,
Yeah,
don't chase the trend, do what feels right in your own skin, and things will work for you. This
absolutely.
happens, this happens to work for me, having been an actor. It's not a
Yeah.
big thing for me to flip-flop between different characters, if you will. Uh, and also, I did make it a little easier on myself. All the pen names are MF. So, if
Yeah.
somebody calls
Yeah,
out,
that's definitely a benefit.
yeah. So, and I've gone through my entire life with people screwing up my first name anyway. I've been called Melinda, Mindy, Missy, Belinda, let's see, Mel, uh, let's see,
I definitely
just
get it.
so yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I call everybody honey or sweetie.
There you go. That works. I have this wacky notion, and we've talked about it before. I want to write one book in each of the 35 major genres. And just recently, a friend of mine sent me an updated list that says 95. So I don't know that I could manage that many pen names. So we're just sticking with my name and going from there. But I can absolutely see, especially if you ever decide to opt to go into film or television or stage production,
Mm.
that having a specific pen name for those medium might be more important. So there's a lot to consider when you think about a pseudonym. So I totally get it. I am excited to hear you read today because this is a book that I'm about three-quarters of the way through and I'm really enjoying it. This is the Augur's Assassin, and it's in the Read Between the Vines mystery series. First of all, talk about the over arc of the series, and then we'll get into the reading.
All righty. So, Read Between the Vines mysteries all center around my main protagonist, who is Zoe Romano. Zoe is a former investigative reporter for the New York Times who we won't go into detail, had a little something happen that she decided this is not the life I want anymore. It is time to put that dog out to pasture. So she moves, uproots her entire New York existence, and moves to the tiny little hamlet of Mystic, Connecticut. And she opens a her own little enoteca, if you will, which is basically a wine library, but she has created a hybrid of sorts because not only is it a library, it is also a bookstore. Wine and books. What more could a girl
Yeah,
ask for, right?
seriously, you don't need much else except maybe the occasional cup of cocoa, but you know,
Which she can get down the road because
perfect.
Mystic is such a wonderful little hamlet like this. It's a little seaside town that actually does exist. My family have roots in Mystic. So I spent many summers growing up there, which is one of the reasons why I chose it as
Hmm.
the location for the series. But books and wine are great, but unless you have a supporting cast, mm, it's not a true cozy mystery. So Zoe has created sort of a found family. She has Dot Richardson, who is the very forward-thinking grandma type character who runs the cash wrap at Read Between the Vines, which is Zoe's store. And then she has the absent-minded punk-esque uh, stock clerk Annie, who is I'm sorry, Addie, who is always getting into trouble, and is always getting more piercings and tattoos and loves to pick up People magazine and Us and National Enquirer and all those other good, pop culture headline type paparazzi.
Serious journalism.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. And then of course we have the suave but needs a little help now and then sheriff. He is the chief of police in, it's actually Groton, but he knows of Zoe's work as an investigative reporter and so often taps into her widely varied background to help him out on cases. And Augur's Assassin is actually the first case that they work together, and it sets the entire world up for the series. And I was very, very fortunate to have met Sue Grafton years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I've read her series, her alphabet series,
Yeah,
A to Z. And she she was a lovely, lovely lady. And at the time that I met her, she was in the middle of P. And she said, yes, she's like, as I like to tell everybody, I'm knee deep in the middle of pee right now. Exactly, exactly. And that was the kind of feel that Sue brought to her books that I wanted to honor, that I wanted to pay homage to, is a
nice.
good mystery, but with humor laced throughout. That
Well, you do snark better than just about anybody I've ever met. So I think that this is a perfect
years of
combination.
practice.
Yeah.
Just ask my mom.
Yeah. I am super excited for you to share a bit of this story with our listeners today, because like I say, I'm in love with it. And then after you read, we'll chat a little bit more because
Sure.
you and I can never resist a good conversation. So when you are ready, Maisie Franklin, please take the microphone and read aloud from The Augur's Assassin.
All right. Here we go. The Augur's Assassin, a Read Between the Vines mystery. Chapter 1. What's a 13-letter word for murder? Dot mumbled, though through between her dentures and the pencil eraser poised between her wrinkled lips, I could hardly understand her. The daily crossword in the New London newspaper, The Day, was spread out on the service counter in front of her. Manslaughter, I retorted. like what I was planning for Addie, my stock clerk, for being late. Now I was the one balancing a heavy box of 2013 Verdelho dangerously over the top of my wild chocolate mane. Not that I didn't appreciate the Verdelho. It was a nice, dry white with a heap of character. Ironically, a lot like Addie. Well, that didn't mean I would enjoy either dropping on my head. Normally, Addie's tardiness wouldn't have mattered all that much. Our business rarely picked up until sometime near lunch, but this morning's commute had been insane, and we were way behind on the daily checklist. The box teetered for a scary moment as I rose up on size 5 tippy toes. Finally, I gave it a good shove, and it obligingly slid to the back of the cherrywood shelf. I stood, flat-footed and relatively safe again, on the top step of the ladder and planted my hands firmly on my hips. I blew an errant lock of hair from my eyes. That should do it, I declared confidently. Uh, nope, Dot countered. That's only 12. Oh, by the way, have you met that handsome new boy at the butcher, Tom Sawyer? As in the adventures of? I couldn't help but ask. Dot nodded. He's available. Oh, and he's positively yummy. You should taste his linguiça. What? I asked, puzzled, not sure if the 64-year-old had just dropped a risque euphemism or made a recommendation for our charcuterie plate. Dot's nose was still buried in her crossword, but her bright blue peepers squinted mischievously over her readers. Risque euphemism for the win. Dot looked innocent enough under her halo of silver white curls, but now and then she really made me wonder. I sighed. What? He stopped in for a bottle of Pinot Noir, the other, and, well, we got to chatting, Dot began. He even helped me clean up the broken bottle when I dropped the first one. Such a gentleman. A broken bottle? My heart-shaped face pinched in economic anguish. Besides, Dot continued, if Orson can find true love at his age, certainly there's more than a little hope for you. She was, of course, referring to Orson Tobit, our wealthy, local, third-generation horse baron, who shocked the whole borough when he took Sarah Hawking, a British national 40 years his junior, as his blushing bride. I don't think so, Dot, I muttered almost under my breath. Orson is a very special case. He got lucky. Dot harumphed. What? Because some spiritual advisor turned over the Queen of Hearts and told him to watch for a beautiful stranger? I'll never understand it. In my day, we went down to the soda shop, ordered an egg cream, and held a face-to-face human conversation with a boy we thought was cute. None of this newfangled mess. Chris, astrology, Tinder. Queen of Hearts or Two of Cups. I just didn't think love was in the cards for me. Ignoring Dot's tirade about modern relationships, I climbed down the ladder. I checked the temperatures on the coolers, a steady 55 degrees Fahrenheit, wiped down the tables, and reshelved a few stray titles from last night's book club. Sometimes I felt like I was running the place all by myself. Wouldn't be the first time in my 36 years I'd ever been left holding the bag. But that's a different story for a different day. And admittedly, despite all their would-be matchmaker meddling and chronic tardiness, I truly loved my employees. They had become family to this lonely city girl turned small-town entrepreneur. My name is Zoe, Zoe Romano. And if you're like me, you love good wine, you love a good story, and you're a sucker for long moonlit walks on the beach. So when my perfect Manhattan life got turned on its ear, it made all the sense in the world for this single Italian-American gal to pack it all up and move to the small coastal town of Mystic, Connecticut, and open Read Between the Vines. It's my own little corner of heaven, a cozy little enoteca, an Americanized wine and liquor library where locals and tourists alike can check out the latest and greatest from the vine and shaft and thumb through tried and true classics and what's topping the bestseller lists. We hold regular tastings and book reading events with shamelessly punny titles: A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Port, Of Mice and Manischewitz, oh, and The Woman in White Wine. It was different, and goodness knows I needed something different. I just hoped Twain, Steinbeck, and Collins aren't groaning in their graves too much. My quirky little shop sat just down Main Street from the Mystic River Bridge. Living and working near the Basquiat Bridge required a deft manipulation of timing. You had to be strategic when you head downtown. Didn't matter if you were coming from Stonington toward Groton or the other way around. Watch the clock, or you'll wind up. Pardon me, 1 second. Ah, I'm a little verklempt. Didn't matter if you're coming from Stonington toward Groton or the other way around. Watch the clock, or you'll wind up in a line of impatient motorists when the bridge goes up. Lights flash, bells rung, 2 minutes up, 5 to 7 minutes for the boats to schlep through, 2 minutes down, or you took the 5 mile detour. But I don't mind it. It's 11 minutes of hazelnut bliss and a soul soothing piece to plan the day's tasting menu, without Dot trying to set me up with Mystic's latest eligible bachelor, or Addie nattering on about Kim Kardashian's latest butt hugging fashion trend, or Taylor Swift's roller coaster love life. I swear my stock clerk had her gel tipped polished talons on the gossip pulse, celebrity or otherwise, and continuously regaled us with the latest scoop on everything and everybody, if we wanted to hear it or not. This morning, though, my 11 minutes had somehow stretched to an unusual 20, and the lights and bells that had zipped past my beat up old Carmen Gia, definitely not from the bridge. The traffic had remained gnarled for an additional 20 minutes, guaranteeing my late arrival. And while the bloodhound in me had smelled a story, I had quickly given myself a mental swat on the nose. That wasn't who I was. Not anymore. Now I am simply Zoe Romano, owner of a charming New England wine bar and bookshop, and there wasn't anything that could steer me from that road. As if to drive the point home, I had gripped the steering wheel firmly and pointed my classic coupe down West Main as soon as the traffic finally moved. Read between the vines rested within spitting distance of Mystic Pizza of Julia Roberts fame, which I have to admit proudly is prime real estate when you consider the foot traffic it encourages into my store. The popular tourist magnet still did a steady business, even though a couple of decades separated it from its 1988 romantic comedy namesake. Its comfortable but noisy dining room offered a mean eggplant parm, a decent beets, and, truth be told, my favorite comfort food, grinders. Something about the spices and satisfying fattiness of a good Genoa salami, the creamy, almost nutty, and slightly salty bite of layered provolone dolce, and that satisfying crunch of marinated cabbage that just lets you know you've eaten a proper meal. Every now and again, though, I do miss a slice of greasy Brooklyn pie. I stole a glance at the wall clock. My customers would be missing the noon tasting menu if I didn't put some hustle into it. Would you quit fiddling with that crossword and help me? I verbally nudged Dot. I need you to prep the 2010 Relentless. You know, the Syrah. I want to pair it with the Maytag Blue for this afternoon's tasting. I really think the full body will stand up well to the tang and pepper of the cheese. Oh, and do we have any of those dried apricots left from the Chenin Blanc showcase the other night? I'd love to put those out too. I flitted like a rabid hummingbird, from shelf to table to cash wrap and back again, pulling glasses, folding napkins, and checking the daily bank. Dot reluctantly pried herself from the crossword and waddled around the counter. You know, Zoe, If there's one thing this old lady's learned in 64 years, it's that sometimes you need to stop and smell the roses. Or before you know it, girlie, you're going to be up to your ears in dirt and daisies instead. She picked up a tray of Bordeaux glasses and moseyed her way toward the store's small prep kitchen. Before I could snap back a witty riposte, the shop's door burst open in a wild flurry of bells, pink, and pointy, loopy nose jewelry. "She's dead!" Addie blurted louder than the bubblegum color of her hair. I winced at the sudden crash of 12 glass Bordeaux stems behind me. Between broken wine bottles and decimated crystal, Dot was going to bankrupt me. "Mercy!" Dot cried. "Dead? Wait, what?" Confusion at Addie's morose proclamation overrode my dismay. I moved to Mystic because it's a nice, quiet town. Nothing ever happens here. Not like... I shook my head, not sure if I'd heard Addie correctly. "Say that again." Addie sucked in a deep breath and exploded again in full-on town crier mode. "She's dead. D-E-A-D. As a doornail." I waved my hands in the air. "Slow down, Addie. Who's dead?" A flood of information continued to gush from her mouth. "Madame Zorina, the psychic. You know, she's got the shop next door." Madame Zorina. How could I forget my eccentric mall mate? Strange zither music vibrating the crystal stemware through the walls. Overpowering clouds of patchouli wafting through the air, nearly strong enough to quell the unique malodorous perfume of the Épaissé de Bourgogne cheese we sometimes served at Hastings. And we'd nearly had to cancel our 50 Shades of Grey Goose Martini night when an argument had erupted so loudly through those thin shop walls our readers could hardly hear themselves talk. Guess somebody hadn't liked their fortune that night. Dot's puckered puss announced her opinion before a word dropped from her lips. "That Carly Simon wannabe with the Birkenstocks and tarot cards." She waved a liver-spotted hand. "What a bunch of hooey." Addie drew her face into the sternest frown she could muster with a lip ring. "Dot, just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's not magical." "I don't understand the weight minder's point system either, but that doesn't make it magical. I just don't think it's very honorable to bilk hardworking folks out of their hard-earned money to make some crazy fortune cookie predictions and reveal some made-up name of some mystery lover. It's positively criminal." "What happened, Addie?" I intervened before it became a spirited debate over metaphysics. "Well, you know Madame Zorina was my neighbor, right?" Addie began. Her voice hitched a little as she corrected her tense. I nodded somberly. Not that she was like a good neighbor or anything," Addie continued. "She let her garbage cans overflow in the alley. She always took my parking place. Her television was too loud half the time, and her door banged as people came and went at all times in the night." "And she peddled hokum," Dot added from the peanut gallery. "Reap what you sow, that's all I'm saying." Addie ignored Dot. "So there I was, on my way to work, totally on time." Dot sniggered. Addie just rolled her eyes. "I was just getting ready to lock my front door when the driveway lights up with a paramedic unit and Chief Cody's squad car." Hit a pat. The skip of my heart caught me off guard when Addie mentioned Derek Cody's name. The handsome police officer had turned many a female head in the borough when he transferred to the Groton Police Department from the NYPD just a few weeks prior. Mine was one of them. The big city cop was certainly easy on the eyes with his intense baby blues and jet black hair. A premature streak of white feathered through the ebony locks just at the temple. And he always ordered his coffee, black, 2 sugars at the lighthouse when I picked up my morning croissant and hazelnut latte. Not that I was paying any attention, mind you. "Lights blazing, sirens wailing. Didn't you hear it? It was noisier than the blessing of the fleet parade," Addie rambled. My eyes widened a little. The lights and sirens on the bridge. My inner bloodhound scratched at the story like it was an irritating flea. "Down, boy." Mr. Ilya, our creepy stalker landlord, found her in a heap at the bottom of her stairs. He says they went there to collect the rent. Personally, I think he went there to peek through her windows again, the bug-eyed peeping Tom. Do you know I caught him once leering at me while I was doing yoga? There he was in happy baby pose, zen as you please, and that weirdo was drooling through my living room window. Seriously, I swear he was actually drooling. Creep had the stones to ask me out. Like on a date. Like that was ever gonna happen. Thought he was gonna like pop a vein in that scrawny little neck the way he started yelling at me. Call me a bunch of names in some crazy language, but that was months ago. Okay, so I knocked on Madame Zorina's door, went in, and there she was, dead, lying at the bottom of the staircase that leads to the second floor of the townhouse. It says her face was covered with blood and bruises. Ugh, she's cold and didn't have a pulse. It says he called 911. Well, what are the police saying? I asked. Accident. No forced entry at the front door, and her tarot cards were scattered across the floor, along with the glass from under her from a broken picture frame from the foyer table. It was horrible. It looks like she just fell down the stairs, knocked into the accent table, and hit her head on the floor. Guess she didn't see that coming, Dot quipped, back at her crossword puzzle behind the counter. Dot! I scolded, but my bloodhound keened. Aha! Dot exclaimed abruptly. My heart jumped in my chest. Again. It had had so much stimulation this morning that I think I could safely skip the cardio circuit at the gym today. What, Dot? I burst, wondering if she had some great insight on the case. Assassination, she answered and tapped her pencil to the crossword. 13-letter word for murder. My inner bloodhound, he howled.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I love it when you read out loud to me. Can you just like move to Michigan, hang out in the library with me, and just read stories over and over and over again? Can we just do that?
I should make a Melinda doll.
Yeah,
You like pull the string and she tells you a whole story. So
absolutely. That's I love the characters in this book. They are so diverse and so much fun, and just hearing you read them out loud makes them even more fun. I can't even begin to thank you enough for that. Um, what was the hardest part about writing Augur's assassination for you?
So probably one of the harder things that happens, and it's not just in Augur's Assassin, is my supporting cast inevitably tries to steal the show. So it's incredibly, probably one of the most labor intense things that I have to do anytime I start a new series, particularly if there's one that's going to have humor in it, is to make sure that I know my protagonist cold. I mean, technically that goes without saying
So
anytime
they
you
don't
start a
get
book.
bulldozed, right?
So they exactly. So my
Yeah.
my side characters don't bulldoze them. The advantage though of that, the flip side of the coin is that when you do have a supporting cast, and if you are fortunate enough to develop a very loyal following to a series, those side characters then become fair game fodder for spin-off series in the same
Sure.
universe.
Yeah. That gives you a lot of latitude to go play after you finish this book.
Yes. So I find myself often as I'm writing, be quiet, you'll probably hate your own series later. Shh.
Yeah.
So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always always a lot of fun. It's like my brain never left the playground from kindergarten. It's
Well,
always
that's
a fest in there.
it's obvious in everything that you write, no matter the genre. You play really well on the page, and I'm so glad that you're sharing it with us.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming out today. I am so excited for everybody to learn about your writing career and discover your books and you'll come back again, right? Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, cool.
absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks again. Have an awesome day.
You as well. Bye, everybody.
Bye.